If we look at the supply reasons for international trade, remember I said in the previous lesson that a supply factor would be any factor that is preventing a country from producing certain goods and services. So they are not choosing not to produce certain things for whatever a lack of something, a lack of resources, a lack of money, a lack of raw materials, whatever reason, they are unable to produce certain things. That is going to constitute a supply factor. So the first reason here is the unequal distribution of natural resources. This reason is limited to your mineral resources. Okay, it just happens to be that some countries have more natural resources than others because of their location. All right, when God created the earth, He didn't go like He was handing out Smarties to children, like you get one, you get one, you get one, you get one. He just threw it into the air and like swoosh, the stuff landed there where it landed. Okay, so some countries just ended up having more natural resources, more minerals than others, just because that is where the resources are being found. Okay, so an example of that is in the Middle East, for example, have rich oil reserves. Okay, they're the major source of the world's oil supply. Okay, they have the majority of the world's oil reserves can be found in the Middle East. That is why also they manipulate the oil price through OPEC. But there's other resources that they don't have. Okay, in South Africa, for example, we have a lot of gold. Okay, we are the number one gold supplier in the world. So South Africa has gold that other countries might not have. So if we look at trade between the Middle East and South Africa, it could be with the Middle East, if they can export oil to other countries that don't have oil, like us, we don't have any oil, then they earn large amounts of foreign currency for the oil that they're selling. They use this foreign currency then to pay for the imports for those minerals that they don't have, like gold from South Africa. Okay, so countries will export their surpluses of resources, of mineral resources that they have, and they will import where they have shortages. Okay, we are lucky in South Africa in the sense that we are a mineral-rich country. There's very few, the only mineral that I am aware of that we do not have is oil. Okay, it's literally the only one that we don't have. Natural gas, we do have. We don't have a lot, but we do have, and it's expensive to take out, but we do have. Okay, some countries are in the privileged position to have resources, and if you have the resources, you can obviously mine those resources and enter the market for those resources by selling them. If you do not have the resources, you can dig until you're blue in the face, and you're not going to find gold if there's nothing to be found. So you cannot enter the market for a resource that you just don't have. Okay, now what I've explained now is the uneven distribution of natural resources. Okay, in terms of quantity, some countries have a lot, other countries have less, but it's also distributed unequally in terms of quality. All right, so where South Africa might have better quality coal than another country, so other countries that have coal of their own might still be importing coal from South Africa because the quality of our coal is so much better. In terms of diamonds, for example, South Africa is the 6th largest diamond producer in the world. But when it comes to gem diamonds, the good quality diamonds, we occupy position number 3. So there's 3 countries, other countries that have more diamonds than us, but the quality of our diamonds is better. All right, so there's an unequal distribution in terms of quantity, but also in terms of quality. The second supply reason is the fact that climatic conditions differ. All right, this now again, this condition is restricted to agriculture. All right, in agriculture, certain products, certain goods, certain agricultural products only grow under certain climatic conditions. So where there's climatic variations, okay, where there's droughts, where there's floods, obviously it has a direct effect on agriculture. All right, if it doesn't rain, if there's a drought, and we have planted the crops and it doesn't rain, those crops are not going to grow, they're going to shrivel up and they're going to die. Okay, then we will have to import because ours didn't grow. Where there's floods, the same thing happens. Okay, the stuff gets flooded away, it's too much rain, it affects the production negatively. All right, so in terms of agriculture, the climate has to be just so for agriculture to really be successful. Good climatic, stable climatic conditions is essential for agricultural production. Anything too much rain, too little rain, too much wind, not enough wind, hail, pests, anything like that is going to affect the production in the agricultural sector. Okay, so certain crops grow only under certain conditions. So if you want to plant crops, certain crops like maize, for example, they like a dryish climate. If you want to plant bananas, they need to be planted in a humid environment. Okay, tropical fruit, humid environment. Citrus fruit, they're in the low veld. Okay, there's different climatic areas that certain crops are actually suitable for. So if the climate in your country is suitable for agriculture, you can plant the crops, the fruit, the vegetables that is suited to your area. But your area is not, your climate in your area is not going to be suitable for every single food item to be planted. Okay, so countries will plant those things that their climate is suitable for, and they will export their surpluses. But those items that their climate is not suitable for, obviously they cannot plant, it will not grow, so that they have to import from other countries. Okay, so in countries like ours, okay, we are classified as a water scarce country, a semi-arid country, because of we don't receive a lot of rain. Okay, certain areas in our country receives very little rain. And the thing is, for successful agriculture, they are saying that you need at least 200 millimeters of rain per year. And 80% of our country doesn't even get that. Okay, so 80% of the surface area in our country is not really even suitable for agriculture. So it does happen. We are, in most years though, we are self-sufficient. Okay, there's very little that we import in the way of food. Obviously, if you import food out of season, okay, like in our country, strawberries will be harvested in December. But if there's a demand for strawberries in June, you can buy them in the shops because we import them. All right, so we need them. If there's a demand for them out of season, it is possible for us to import them. But as a rule, South Africa is an exporting country when it comes to agriculture. Okay, so not only just the rain that is important, okay, good terrain is also important, okay, where the ground is too steep, okay, like on a mountainside. You can't plant on a mountainside because when it rains, all the fertile soil is going to wash down the mountain and it's going to lie there in the valley. Obviously, the valley is between the mountains. That is where all the fertile soil is. Okay, that is where they do the wine farming, the grape farming in the Western Cape in our country, because in between the mountains there, that is where the soil is very fertile. Okay, so in South Africa, as I said, we have different climatic zones. We are very lucky because our country is big. The climate in Mpumalanga is different to the climate in Natal, which is different to the climate in the Cape, for example. Okay, so we are able to create a wide variety of agricultural products, but not all other countries are lucky like that. Okay, so countries that can plant the crops because their climate is suitable, they will plant and export. Countries whose climate is not suitable obviously cannot cultivate their own food, and they will have to import from countries who can. The next supply reason is that the quality of the labor force is different. Okay, in certain countries, they have a more skilled workforce that is able to operate sophisticated machinery a little bit better. Okay, in our country, for example, we have a large oversupply of unskilled workers. So unskilled workers are not necessarily capable of dealing with technology. All right, so those countries with skilled workers, they are able to implement sophisticated equipment, technology, machinery, which means that their productivity levels are much higher. And because they produce so much, their production cost per unit is lower. The more we produce, the lower the production cost becomes per unit. Okay, we'll see this. We're going to go look there in chapter 5 as well. Okay, so those countries, it doesn't help if you buy the fancy machines and the equipment, and you don't have the employees or the workers that can operate that equipment. Okay, we can only implement the machinery if we have the workers that can operate them. So the more skilled and educated and productive the workers are, the more competitive that country can be. Okay, countries will buy from each other if they can get it cheaper somewhere else. Okay, if I am able to produce something, but it's going to cost me 50 Rand to produce that item, and I can buy it from China for 20 Rand, it makes economic sense for me to not produce it, but to rather buy it from China because it is cheaper. Okay, so these countries with your skilled workers and the sophisticated machinery, they obviously can do a better job. Now, the quality of their products are better, and because their productivity is higher and their production costs are lower, that gives them a competitive advantage. Their prices will be lower. So other countries are going to tend to buy from them. All right. If you don't have the skilled workers, there are just certain industries that you can't enter because you don't have the workers to operate the technology. The technology on its own means nothing. Okay. Skilled workers, educated workers, also they make less mistakes, okay, which also decreases your production cost. The quality of their work is just so much better. Okay, the next reason from the supply side is the fact that not all countries have access to advanced technology. All right, certain countries are just technologically more advanced than others. Okay, so they are able to produce technologically advanced products and they're able to produce at a lower cost. Okay, machinery don't take tea time. Machinery don't get sick. Machinery don't go for operations and stay a week off work, 6 weeks off work. All right, technology enables mass production. When we use technology in our production process, we are able to produce hundreds of thousands, millions of identical items, and obviously then the unit costs will decrease. All right, if I use a machine that costs 100 Rand, and I use that machine to produce 10 items, that each item has to contribute 10 Rand to the payment of this machine. But if I use that same machine that costs 100 Rand and I produce 100 items, each item that I sell has to contribute only 1 Rand to the payment of that machine. So the more we produce with our given inputs, the more we can produce, the lower the production cost becomes, the unit cost, the average cost decreases. And therefore it is cheaper for those countries to produce it. Okay, when they use advanced technology, it becomes very much cheaper for them to do that. Okay, so countries like Sweden, Japan, Finland, America, Germany, they are the world leaders in the production of specialized items, things like computer chips, cell phones, digital cameras, computers, cars. Okay, and just remember, Japan and China is two different countries. Japan is a developed country. China is emerging like us. They're emerging a bit faster than what we do, but they are still an emerging, a developing country. Okay, so these countries, Sweden, Japan, Finland, America, Germany, they have built up a good reputation over many years for producing good quality products. So other countries like South Africa, we are not even going to try to produce certain items because we simply cannot compete with these countries. Their reputation is just so good. We prefer to buy from them because they have specialized in the production of certain things. If you want to buy a car though, okay, if you want to buy a car, for example, the cars, everybody knows, the cars that comes from Japan, like Toyota, has a good reputation. We know it's a good quality vehicle. If you buy things like BMW, it is German technology. They have an advantage. Everybody knows BMWs are decent vehicles, okay? Ford, I think they come from America. They are decent vehicles, good quality. They've built up a reputation over many, many years. And this is the only reason why they can do this is because they have access to the technology that others don't. All right, so those countries that are wealthy enough that can operate the more advanced technology, they are obviously going to have a competitive advantage over other countries that is still using outdated technology, because outdated technology obviously is not as productive. The latest technology increases productivity, so a lot more items can be produced in a shorter amount of time, and the quality of those goods are also better. All right, so obviously countries that have technology are able to produce certain things that countries that have no technology is unable to do. The car manufacturing industry, for example, cars are assembled by robots. Okay, robots that have been programmed to assemble those cars. If a country doesn't have the robotics and the skilled workers or whatever to operate and to program those robots, you cannot make cars. All right, if you don't have the technology, you cannot produce the cars. Any technological thing, cell phones, tablets, computers, cameras, anything technological, they are made in countries where the technology is available to produce these high-tech items. Countries that have no technology simply cannot do that. Okay, they can't produce it, obviously, they're going to have to import it from others. The technology obviously is made available to other countries. Most of this technology is developed in the developed countries. They come up with the innovative technology and they do offer it to the developing countries, but obviously there's a lack of capital. If you can't afford to buy the technology, you can't have the technology. If you don't have the skilled workers to operate the technology, you can't have the technology. So in terms of advanced technology, your developed countries very much has an advantage over developing countries. Okay, then if we look at the lack of capital resources, I alluded to this just now. Okay, some countries obviously need to implement new technology, but they don't have the money to do so. Everybody knows you need to move forward, we need to become technologically more advanced, but the technology, as I just said, is produced in developed countries, which they will sell to developing countries, but in developing countries, they simply don't have the money to afford to buy the technology. All right. So due to a lack of capital resources, they are unable to purchase the technology that they need to modernize the industries, to enter certain industries. They simply don't have the advanced machinery. They don't have the equipped factories to produce certain things because they cannot afford to buy those things. All right. Remember, again, it is the developing countries that is getting the shortest end of the stick because in your developing countries, there's a lot of poor people. So savings levels is very low. People need to save so that the banks can give credit to businesses to purchase technology. But in developing countries, the people are poor. Okay? The people don't have money, so savings levels are very low. The banks are unable to create credit also for the businesses wanting to implement technology. And because obviously in developing countries it has to be imported, that adds to the cost. Okay? They simply cannot afford to buy the technology that they need to enter certain industries. Okay. Then the last reason from the supply side is the principle of absolute and comparative advantage. This is part of the supply reasons. I'm just going to make a separate video for this though, because the people that attended on Tuesday, we didn't get this far. Okay, so if you write the essay, this principle of absolute and comparative advantage will be part of the essay question. I'm just going to deal with it separately because it is also very, very important.